Hello guys, Ninad here. So just let me know if you're able to see my screen. Yeah, anyone just in the comments, let me know if I'm able to share my, if my screen is visible to you. My screen is not visible. Yeah, okay. So we are good to start now. So about this webinar. So we are going to discuss here about account takeover. Account takeovers vulnerabilities here. So let me introduce you myself. Myself Ninad. Ninad Mathpati. I'm an application security engineer at ArisGlobal, security researcher at SINAC and Buckrout. Featured by, and I'm also a featured in Buckrout's researcher spotlight. So I have achieved so many things through bug bounties. I have been here in bug bounties for 2+ years. I have gone through so many things, ups and downs, and at last I have came up to a place where I know that if I need something, uh, I can just achieve through bug bounty within some days or some weeks of time. Something means like if I need some urgent money or something. So bug bounty has given me that platform that I need not be worried about that much about the career problems, which mostly the new graduates are having. So I'm a hacker with ethical bent of mind. I have developed some tools. Would be releasing it, but not now. Mostly, I'm known as Hacker 2202, and you can find more details about me at my website ninadmatpati.com. So just once again, so let's stop the webcam. So let's start with the disclaimer. Nothing presented here in the today's session gives you permission to hack. Whatever the methods I will be teaching you, whatever the methods I will be guiding you, if you do something illegal with that methods, I will not be held responsible for that. And I always suggest that if you want to hack something, or if you want to find a vulnerability in any application, you should take a proper approvals, and use whatever the knowledge I am providing here just for educational purposes only. It would be better. So a small quote from my side, as a career guidance, like create your own path and leave it. In this, I just want to say you that try every career opportunity. There are many career opportunities after graduates, or after getting graduated. So many people will be like left what to do and what not to do. The coding is not the only thing that everybody can do. So I suggest you that we should try each and everything. We should go and give a try in each and every industry about what can be done, and what is your passion. You need to try. You need to find out what is your passion and work on it. So if you're working on your passion, it will be bit easier to reach your goals early. So so let's get to the point. What is this talk about? So here we'll be discussing about account takeover vulnerabilities. Account takeover vulnerabilities, ways to achieve that, report writing skills, and at last we'll be having a question and answer session. So those who are having any questions or in the middle, they can save it in a notepad, and we can discuss it at the end of the webinar. That would be easier for everybody. So what is account takeover? Account takeover, it's a vulnerability where attacker tries to gain unauthorized access to the victim's account. Now suppose there will be multiple platforms, like you can take Facebook or any application which is a user based application. So there will be many users, not only one user. So there will be many users. So today what we are discussing is how to take over that how to take over that user's account. Let it be, it might be admin user, it might be a super admin user, or it might be a lower privileged user. So we will be discussing how to take over the accounts of the users. It can be in any application, it can be in any user based application. So there are many ways to achieve this account takeovers, but mostly it will be like chaining one or two bugs like XSS for like taking over account using XSS via session hijacking attack. So such we will be discussing further. So these are the methods ATOs can be achieved. So we can see that CSRF is there, cross-site request forgery, cryptographical errors are there, XSS is there, IDOR is there, OAuth misconfigurations are there, hard-coded info such as which is stored in the GitHub or JS files, or in the while when the developer writes a code, so he will be mentioning some key points, or mentioning some kind of data or a reference data in the HTML comments, or the application, or uh, the application, or in the language which the application is made. So in those comments there might be a secret info or hard coded info through which the account takeover might be possible. So after that we can see that business logic errors are also there. So business logic errors are like, we'll be breaking the application's workflow. How it will be like, suppose there is application which is which is made to work in a defined workflow. So what we'll be doing is we will be breaking that defined path, and we'll be breaking that defined path, and try to escalate those errors to achieve the account takeovers. So recently, if we move forward, recently there was an account takeover using request smuggling attack also. So it was also made using a chaining of attacks using a URL redirect, and yeah, using a URL redirect attack. So again, there are many vulnerabilities like host header injection, parameter pollution, CRLF injection. So I guess most of you might be familiar with host header injection. Will be changing the host headers, which might which might be escalate to cache poisoning attacks. No, cookie stealing attacks. So after that, parameter pollution. So parameter pollution will be like password reset links will be there. So uh, in that we can change the email ID parameter or the user ID parameter. We in that some or the other we will be working with the parameters to achieve ATOs. And CRLF injection is like a percentage E and uh, percent, percentage 0D and percentage 0A. So it's like a bypass for uh, bypass for getting work getting the uh, vulnerability work in business logic errors also. So CRLF attacks for account takeovers would mostly work in business logic errors. So we'll be moving further. While moving further, we'll learn about it more. So at first, I would like to start with the account takeover via CSRF attacks. So what is a CSRF attack? So CSRF attacks is an attack here in this vulnerability. The attacker is able to trick the victim into making a request that a victim does not intend to. So it means like, suppose there is a victim and he doesn't want to change his password, but attacker can send him a malicious link, and and if the victim clicks on that link, his email ID can be changed. It doesn't need to be email ID. It can be anything, such as date of birth or the username or credit card info, anything in the application, the user's data, we can change. So This is the impact of CSRF attacks. So this vulnerability works using the cookie stored in the browsers. So what this vulnerability will be doing is it will be capturing the cookies which are stored in the browser, and it will be using to authenticate user in that application. So using that, we'll be able to make changes in the users data or users profile. So if you see, the level of attack can be based upon the level of privileges that are assigned to a victim. So it can, if it is a higher admin user, uh, and it is vulnerable if there is application with an admin user and a low privilege user. And using this attack, a low privilege user can try to make any changes in the admin account with his privileges only, using CSRF attacks. So we'll be discussing a unique case which I found uh, recently while working on a bug bounty. So the scenario was such that so there was a scenario where a password reset of the account was possible using two ways. So there are many ways today. Today there are many ways for resetting a password. So it might be using OTP, it might be using the verification link sent through email, or the security questions and answers, or it can be like a sending OTP over call. So there are little more many ways where the user can by which the user can reset his password. So here the security in this so in the vulnerable application which I was working, so there were security measures such as CSRF token. So it was already implemented that the application should be safe from a CSRF attack. And over to that, uh, so we will be conducting a attack on the my profiles page. So my profiles page, I'll tell you. So my profiles page, there if you can see the if you can see the screen, there was a little bit. So if you can see the screen, uh, the vulnerable application was something like this only. So there were login name, current password, new password, or and the confirm new password, and the security questions, question and answers were mentioned. So the application was implemented. So the CSRF token was implemented in the application, and current password, and over to that protection, while making changes in the my profiles section or my profiles page, the application was checking for the old password. So you can see this current password section, this current password. So here, before updating, it would be asking you the current password. So even if by mistake the CSRF is bypassed, the current password would not allow attacker to change the uh, victim's data. So I was able to bypass here both CSRF token and the current password security also. So how was it possible? So since CSRF protection was everywhere, and over to that application was confirming the changes using confirm password. So if I normally generated a POC, sorry, POC not, sorry, CSRF POC for this page, so it would be coming like login page, false, and all those the required data we need to put it. And it was verifying with the old password. So I need to provide a old password here. And the CSRF token, it was generated by the server, and it was generated by the application, and it was getting added here. If you are simply generating a CSRF POC using a Bubsuit, yeah, pro license. So using this, I tried many ways to bypass this thing, this both. Some of them work and some of them not worked. So we'll be seeing what worked and what not worked. So okay, so after trying every bypassing techniques to bypass the confirm password, I thought to recheck the registration workflow. So I would like to tell you one thing here. So I'll tell you about the CSRF token here. The first point was here this. I needed to bypass both of these. So I took one CSRF token first. So CSRF token I was able to bypass just by removing the parameter of CSRF token. So that was a easy way, easy and very quick way to bypass the CSRF token. So it was not implemented properly, since I guess the developer was more confident, so that both protections are there, so attacker might not be able to escalate it. But still, so after deleting the entire CSRF token parameter, so uh, how to how to bypass this old password section, old password parameter. So after trying many things by removing the old password section, the old password parameter, and or giving some null value, it didn't work. So what I tried is, while working on the application, I noticed that in the while creating an account, after creating and verifying, when we try to log in for the first time, the application was asking the user to set up a new security questions and answers. So that hit me, and I thought that, why not I should try a CSRF here, or I should, now I'm able to set a security question answer directly here. So why not use this request there, or why not use this request parameters, body parameters, or body request body part, uh, to exploit that my profile section. So I just after that I just gave when the uh, when I was shown the screen of setting up new security question and the answer, I just give some random questions and answers, and hit a click on submit, and I just captured that request in the Bob suite. Now to bypass that confirm password, yeah, as I said, I used some parameters from that request, and I altered the my profile page COC. So after login, which we get the screen which we get to change the account details, like my profile section. So that page POC. So that page POC means this POC. Yeah, this one POC. So I altered some parameters here, and altered or replacing some parameters in the above request, I was able to set a new security question and answer for the victim's account. So why? So it was like I was removing this old parameter, old password parameter, CSRF token parameter, and adding two or three something extra parameters here to the request, CSRF request. So if you can see, the new POC would be like, so all these things till save submit were the same. Here the origin parameter was the new parameter, the requester parameter was the new thing, and the login page and security page, I guess it was in the old thing also, the old POC also. So here I added these two parameters and just to give a try. I was also not sure that it would work or not, but just to give a try, that it might be a business logic error also. It might be not implemented. The application might have not implemented properly everything. So using the so to my surprise, after altering this, after creating this new altered POC, it helped me changing the email ID also of the account and the security questions and answers also of the account. So which means I was able to bypass both old password and the CSRF token. So using this, once I have updated the security questions, so I could have easily, I could have what I have I did go to the password reset functionality, and I gave the email ID of the victim's account, and I was able to successfully reset the account using the new question and answers, the new questions and answers which I have set up here in the account. So in this way, I was able to bypass this. I was able to bypass this vulnerable application, bypass the CSRF protection which was implemented in this vulnerable application. So There are many other ways to achieve this, to bypass CSRF and achieve account takeovers. So for achieving account takeovers using CSRF, the main point will be like that you should try to change the password. It will be highly difficult most of the times, but instead of that, you can change the account's email ID only. So there are many ways you can change the request method from the post to get, or you can try to decode CSRF tokens. You might get something, and you need to work on. So this given ways extra, you need to, so we can extract tokens via HTML injection, or we can use the static parts of the token. So there will be a, now the token will be created in many forms. So you need to work on how the token is created. You need to try to bypass it. You can give the null value of the token, or you can give a blank parameter, or you can just see if the token is reused or not. If it is reused for the same application, then if you can see that, is it the same token for all the users? So if it is that, then it's like a very big implementation of CSRF tokens. So there are many, you can reverse engineer the token or extract token via, you can extract the CSRF tokens via HTML injection or XSS attacks. So many, there are many things you can do. It's up to you how you escalate the issues. So these are some ways to bypass CSRF, and I have given some of the ways in my security workbook, info.ninadmathpati.com. So I have created a security workbook for the people who are new in the security field, and they doesn't get enough of resources, or they get confused while searching the resources for finding the vulnerabilities or the desired vulnerability. So I have collected those resources at a place and stored it. So we'll be discussing about this info.ninadmathpati.com at at the end of the webinar. So let's move forward. Account takeover by business logic vulnerabilities. So what are business logic vulnerabilities? So these are flaws in the design and implementation of an application that allows the attacker to elect unintended behavior. So it's like, suppose an application is made to work in a desired workflow, like there is a application, e-commerce platform, and there is a e-commerce platform, say Flipkart or anything you can take, any XYZ. So there's a so after adding something to the cart, will be processed to the payments page. So in between the payment processing to the payments page, we can try to manipulate the price parameter, or might be like that you can alter the currency parameter, in which the like in which currency the amount must be paid by the consumer. So if we are able to successfully find vulnerabilities in such flows, so we can say that these are business logic vulnerabilities. So it is like a functionality that is a part of a legitimate workflow, but it can be used for a malicious intent. Like I just said, so that payment portal was a like a proper workflow made for the application to run in that way. But if that parameters, a currency parameter or the price parameter is not secured in a proper way, an attacker can easily buy up or purchase things in a very low cost. Like if he is exploiting the currency parameter, if the product is in euros, he can directly change that to Indian rupees. So you knows the value of Indian rupees and the euros. There's a difference of 80 rupees or 90 rupees. So in that way, it can be exploited. So I'll just show you the scenario which I got. So for account takeover, so there was a scenario where password reset of account was possible via requesting a password reset link to a registered email. So the application, so let's say the application name was XYZ, and I created my account on the application. I tried to reset my account password using forward password personal functionality. The application was using token implementation while resetting the passwords. So as I said, the token implementation is there. So for changing the password, there are many ways. As I said in the last uh, last CSRF vulnerabilities. Like for password reset, there are many ways for to reset a password using a token implementation or a OTP way or OTP. The the server can send a OTP to your phone number, or he can call OTP via call to reset his password. But here in the application, the password reset was working. The password reset was uh, implemented using token implementation. So I'll just show you. Yeah. So the URL was in such a way. So I created an account and I requested a password reset token for my account. I received a password reset token for my account in my email ID. So the email was something like this: password reset change token equals to something something, and the email was my email at the rate myemail.com. So I tried to reset. The first part was I tried to change the token parameter, or I tried to find that if it is encrypted, if I would be able to decrypt it or not. So I played with token parameter for some time, and then I thought let's move focus to the email parameter. So I tried resetting the password once also, and I found out that the token was not expiring after one use. So that was a vulnerability, that the token should expire after resetting one account. So I kept it in my mind and moved forward. So as if I was in the email parameter, so I just tried to change my email to some other email. So we can say that victim's email, we can say. So when I just gave a hit, or when I just opened that you the altered this altered URL in the browser, the browser was asking me for a two-factor authentication. So I had two accounts in that vulnerable application, and I didn't implemented any two-factor authentication for both the accounts. But still, it was asking me a two-factor authentication code. So I thought it can be bypassed through some 000, 4 zeros, or 5 zeros, or 6 zeros, or some null value. So there are many ways to bypass this OTP two-factor verification. So none of them worked. At last, what I thought while doing something, I have gone through the email IDs to check my mails. So luckily, I received the same password link to victim's account. Sorry, I received the same password reset link of the victim's account to my account. So as I said, I created two accounts. So let's say one attacker and one victim. So I require. So when I followed this step and I created a URL using, I requested a password reset token using attacker's link for attacker's account. After that, I changed this email ID from the attackers to victim's email ID, and it showed me a two-factor authentication, two-factor verification login screen. So at the same time, it gave me a new password reset link for the victim's account. So it was a pure business logic error from the developer side. And as I got the new password reset link, I was able to escalate it to a full account takeover. I was able to take over victim's account, and it's like a easy ATO for me. So that was a scenario for business logic vulnerabilities. So moving forward, we'll be looking for account takeovers via OAuth vulnerabilities. So what is OAuth? So you might have seen that there are some seen if you are frequently using some sites, or if you're frequently browsing. So you might have come across these buttons like sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook, or with Twitter, or with GitHub. So while browsing, so let's discuss what is OAuth first. So while browsing the web, you have almost certainly come across the sites that let you log in using social media accounts. As I said, social media accounts like Twitter or Facebook or anything. It can be a developer accounts like GitHub or Google account also. So OAuth is a authorization framework. So OAuth works for implementing this workflow. it's a framework that enables website and the web applications to request a limited access to the user's account on the another application. Suppose we'll be discussing this further through a GUI implementation. So it allows the attacker to grant the access to his details. Grants the user to it allows the user to grant the access to his details without exposing their login credentials to the requesting application. So suppose a user doesn't want to provide his credentials, or user wants to log in a quicker way to a application. So that application might work with Google or work with Facebook or work with Twitter or work with such OAuth implemented companies to directly to implement a OAuth feature, so that whenever a user comes or a consumer comes to his to the application, he can directly sign in with Google or sign in with Facebook or any other websites where OAuth is implemented. So we'll see how this OAuth works. So auth for workflow is basically simple. It will look like a messy thing, but if you listen this, it is like very much easier thing. So auth in the auth workflow, there are three main things. There's a client application, there is a resource owner, and the third one is auth service provider. So client application, it might be it is the application which will request the users access, users account, users confidential data like username, password, phone number, email ID, profile pic, or anything to the authorized to this auth service provider. So auth service provider is like Facebook or Google, which will be storing the users data through their applications. Like when we will be signing up with Google or signing up with Facebook, so they'll be already having our data. They'll be having already our data like username, our public information, what it will be. So this client application can request this auth service provider to auth service provider to get the desired users data. So this was about auth service provider, and the last one is the resource owner. So resource owner is the user which the user now the client wants some users data. So that user is a resource owner. So the data which auth service provider will the data which auth service provider will transfer to the client application will be of resource owner. So we'll see how it works. So first the client will request one thing I forgot. In the auth service provider, there will be two things: resource server and authorization server. So authorization server will be verifying the user's permission, so that he really wants to give his public information access to the client application, and it will verify that, and it will generate us access token, and it will generate an access token and provide it to the client application. And resource server is something that it verifies the access token which was generated by the authorization server. If it is sent by the client, then the resource server will be able to send the resource owner's data to the client. So if we see the workflow, the client will say that please provide me the access token to the authorization server. The next step is authorization server will go to the resource owner, like the user, and he will say that do you approve this client request. So while working on auth workflow, when you click on sign up with Google, it will redirect you to your Google account, and the Google will ask you permission to share your profile pic or date of birth or the email ID. So if you click on allow that button, then that allow button is this part. Here the authorization server will request the user, do you approve the client's request? And if the user or the resource owner approves the client request, then authorization server will generate a access token and it will provide it to the client. So using this access token, the client application will request the resource server to provide the resource owner's data. So whenever the workflow will be there, so whenever the user wants to sign in, the client application will simply send the access token to the resource server after that, and he will be able to fetch the user's data. So this was the basic auth workflow. There are many types, implicit grant and authorization grant. So we cannot go deep here, but this is the basic workflow, basic to the basic workflow of the how the auth work mechanism works. So how we can found the auth ATOs, account takeovers, using OAuth implementation. So there are many ways, but I'll be just discussing the two ways here. It will the first one will be like weak URL redirect misconfiguration. Here the redirect URI is vulnerable to the open redirect vulnerability. This vulnerability leads the attacker stealing the victim's access token to the website. So this is just the definition. We'll be looking forward about this. And improper handling of the state parameter. So while this workflow is going on, the the request must be verified that it is coming from a valid user. So to verify those, the state parameter was implemented. So that state parameter, it's like it's a CSRF token only in the workflow. So whenever you see such request, if state parameter is missing in this OAuth workflow, there are highly chances that it will be vulnerable to a CSRF attack. So let's move forward. So as I said, the OAuth we'll discuss first about the URL redirect misconfiguration. So when we click on the sign up with or sign in with the Facebook button or the Google button, sign in with Google button, so there will be the request will be something like this, and we'll be getting the client will be sending the client ID, and it will be requesting the response type as a token and the scope. So as I said, what the data, the resource owner's data will be exchanged. So here it's like email ID, user's birthday, and public profile, and user's friends. So all this data will be going to the client application. So after that, the URL redirect parameter is here. So after generating the access token, the Facebook will redirect to this website. So I have just for the namesake I have given so Spotify. It can be anything. So if we change this parameter, and if the server is not implementing or it's not whitelisting the allowed domains, it's not filtering the allowed domains to redirect it's not it's not giving the auth service provider the allowed domains to which he can the auth service provider can send the access tokens back. So it can, if it is not verified, if that thing is not implemented, what attacker can do is attacker can change this redirect URI parameters URL to his attacker control server, and after the token is generated, the URL the Facebook will redirect with the access token to the attacker server, and so the access token, it will be in the URL header. In the URL, if it is by get method, and there might be highly chances that the access token will show in the refer header. So because refer header is something which contains the address of your previous web page. So suppose if you suppose you went to facebook.com, and after that you went to a sign up form. So in the refer header, it will show you so the first page was facebook.com and the second page was facebook.com/sign up page. So in the refer header, it will show you the facebook.com. So the access token might be passed in the refer headers also. So if it is passed in the refer header, so attacker can use that access token to access the user's data directly. This might lead to compromising of user's account totally. He can use that token to send API request, and he can and to access whatever data which is allowed by the authorization server, authorization server. So next vulnerability is like auth state parameter misconfiguration leading to a CSRF attack. So as I said, so this is a theory part. So we'll see here in detail. So if attacker clicks on sign in with Facebook, so this is also same thing. Client ID is there, response type is there, scope is there, and redirect URI is there. So as I said, to prevent this request from a CSRF attack, the state parameter should be implemented, or the instead of state parameter it can be the CSRF token also, or the parameter which is having a CSRF token. So in the first request we didn't see any state parameter is there, so we forwarded the request, and the next part will be like the authorization, the auth the auth sorry, one second. The next part will be the auth service provider. The OAuth service provider will ask the user to verify, or user to approve the approve for sending the information to the client. So if user clicks on approve, clicks on approve, the OAuth service provider will generate a access token, or it will generate a code. It will generate a code. It will generate a code, and it will be sending it to the client application. So while it is sending it to the client application, the requested URL would be something like this: the callback, and a code will be there for the approved user. So approved user. So what the attacker can do is he can just create a CSRF POC for this request, and send it and host it on his server, and he can send host it on his server, and he can send it to the victim. So once the victim clicks on the malicious link by the attacker's Facebook account or any other account or service provider's account will be linked to the victim's account. So the attacker can directly go and sign in with his Facebook account and get access to the victim's account. So in this way, we can take over the full account. We can do a full account takeover on the application using this by uh, using this vulnerability. So that was all about auth. And so moving forward, we'll be looking for one more type of account takeovers. It will be like account takeover by using IDOR. So what is IDOR? It is a type of access control vulnerability. This kind of vulnerability arises when a user supplied input is used to access data directly. So if you can see here in the URL, it's like we are accessing the my profiles page, and you can see this 1 2 3 4. So this URL will show the my profiles information about the user, which is having the user ID 1 2 3 4. So there might be chances that if the attacker changes this 1 2 3 4 to 5 4 5 6 7 8, so the user which is having his user ID 5 6 7 8, that user details might be showed in the application. So this is called a IDOR vulnerability. So I'll just let you know that how I was able to exploit this IDOR to take over whole user's account. So scenario was the same. There was application, and there was application. So when I went to while I was working on the application, I came through a endpoint. So it was, I'll just forgot to say you that it was a mobile application, Android application, and the SSL pinning was implemented. So most of the time, many people think that many people ignore bypassing the SSL pinning. So I will strongly say that you should try to bypass SSL pinning, because we don't know what is behind the SSL pinning, what is behind the bars. So as a bypass, for me, it took 3 days to bypass the SSL pinning, but after bypass, within some 10 to 15 minutes, I got this vulnerability, whole account takeovers. So I came to this API endpoint, customer API customers, and this was, of course, anybody can say that is the customers or the users user ID 1 2 3 4 5 6. So it was vulnerable to IDOR vulnerability. I was if I am changing it to 5 6 7 8 9, I was able to check. I was able to fetch the data of any other users. So how ATO can be achieved here? So if you give a closer look here, the application is sending a GET request. So if many of you are familiar with HTTP request methods, so there will be GET, POST, uh, put, delete, options, head, trace back, trace. So there will be many methods. So to find what all methods are implemented, we can just replace the get method to options method, and that's what I did, and I got to know that all these methods are there, are allowed for this particular request. So it was like get, put, post, delete, and options. So if you see the put request, put request is for adding or updating some information, and delete request method is for some for deleting something. So if I replace these options to delete, I would be easily able to delete this user. If I would replace it to put method and add something, some body part, the request body part. So email such as email to attacker's email, last name, first name, and just pass the request in the put method. So the response was like 200. Okay, I was able to change the users, any user's account details with this vulnerable URI because of this HTTP methods enabled, put method enabled. So this was like exploiting a 180 one account at a time. Can we escalate it further? Many of the hunters will be looking that we can't escalate it, or we have found high severity vulnerability. So as of now, it is a high severity vulnerability. Can we exploit it to highly critical vulnerability? Yeah, as that's mentioned in the next slide. Can we escalate it further? Can we take over 100 accounts at a time? Yes, we can escalate it further. What if we brute force the ID parameter and have the same body content here to change the email? Or if we if you see if you want to attack in a more evil way, we can just replace this email parameter to a password parameter and brute force this the user id parameter here, and we can just set a default password for all the accounts in the company. So that's what I did, the same thing. And within 10 minutes, I was able to take over near to 100 accounts. So I just stopped there. I did not want to damage the company's reputation by making all the users default password, and I reported it. So if I wanted to make down the company, no, if I wanted to escalate it, I would have simply deleted the whole user's data from the application, or I would have changed the default, changed all the users' password in the application. So this was all about. So this was about account takeovers using IDOS. So we discussed here four methods about account takeovers. First was CSRF. Second was password business logic vulnerabilities. Third was using auth misconfiguration, and third was using IDOS. So this is what I was mainly willing to cover about ATOs in this webinar. So let's have a now. I guess we have 12 minutes. So let's have a quick discussion on report writing. So how one can write a better report? I believe report writing is as important as finding bugs in the application. I've seen many reports, uh, or many hunters will be ignoring the reports. If we see in the activity section, there are some of the reports will be like just they will be giving the vulnerable URL and the POC, and the triggerer needs to think about how this vulnerability came into action. So that's not a proper way to send a report to a company. So as of me, this point should be mentioned. Vulnerability name should be there. Description should be there. A vulnerable URL or endpoint should be there. Severity, payload, steps to reproduce should be given in a proper way, so that the triggerer who is sitting in front, he can follow the step to reproduce and reproduce the same vulnerability within a short time. And at last, as bigger the impact, as that much higher the vulnerability. So always try to think out of the box for showing the impact. And remediation, about how the vulnerability can be fixed, and the references how you about that vulnerability we can I'll mention all this in the report. So I have created some templates here for reporting for bug bounty, some bug bounty templates at the info.ninadmathpati.com. It's a security workbook, as I said in the starting. So there I have made some templates, like I have just created a snap of that and just pasted it here in the PPT. So if you see, there is a template for server side request forgery. So vulnerability name should be like server side request forgery on this domain name. It's Some people will be like server side request forgery on your application. It will be like on which your application. You should mention that particular application name. So in that way, only description. You should keep the definition of the vulnerability in short 2 lines, and you need to describe it how you were able to escalate it, or how was your testing methodology. So you need to mention the payload, step to reproduce, proof of concepts, impacts, attack scenarios, remediation. And here I mentioned to write about severity. The severity also you need to mention. The same way for SQL injection also I have shown here the vulnerability description, payload for the SQL payload. Let it be SQL map payload or any payload, manual payload. You need to give a proper payload here, then give a proper step to reproduce. If it is a boolean based, now for example, if there is a boolean based SQL injection, so it is better if you provide a SQL payload for a true require. If the data provided using the SQL payload is true, and a payload for a false request also, or for a false payload also. In that way, the triggerer would be he would find a little bit easier to reproduce the issue a bit earlier. So I feel that report writing is also very much crucial part in this bug bounties or anything, or in the penetration testings. So everybody need to uh, it is better if you start making or start drafting a proper effects, proper reports. You can refer my info.ninadmathpati.com site, and in that I have given many sample report templates. You can refer there, and you can use that template for reporting the vulnerability if you have got that vulnerability. So references, as I said, I created a workbook. So this is the workbook. You can go at info.ninadmathpati.com, and for bug bounties, I've given some part like how to get started in bug bounties, how to find bug bounty programs using bug bounty docs. Bug bounty templates are also as I said, these templates are included in the bug bounty template section. And regarding the resources, web application, so I have made a list for web application pen testings, API pen test, Android pen test, iOS application pen test, and over to that, I have tried to provide some information on source code reviews and cloud security. So as of now, the web app pen test section is a little bit completed, and other all things are like some of the part is completed, some of the part is not completed. As I have started this like 2.5 months before only, so slowly I will be covering everything here. If anyone needs, or if anyone needs any specific information, or if anyone needs uh, any clarification about any vulnerability, you can just ping me on Twitter, and I can just add that section here, or I can just explain you in some other way. So at last, if you want to find vulnerabilities first, if you are a beginner at finding the vulnerabilities, I strongly suggest that you should be going through these labs. The best one will be Portsfigure Labs. It's like all-time best free labs. Afterwards, you can go for Pentester Labs Pro subscription. Before that, you should, instead of buying that Pro subscription, I suggest you should strongly complete all these labs first, and then move forward there. Because these labs, if you complete all these labs, I can suggest you that you can come to an intermediate level in web application security, for finding bugs or anything. So like this sports figure also, there is a OApps juice shop. This is also vulnerable application. You can find any number of vulnerabilities whichever you want here in this application. So let's start any If anybody is having any question and answer session, so last 5 minutes are left, I guess. I guess there are many questions. Oh, how? Okay. Oh, I guess there are many questions. I need to get to. So there are. I have some questions, which the moderator has noted, and I need to answer that. So how the first question was, how did you identify the CSRF token was already implemented by Jasprit Singh? So CSRF token was how we can identify. It's like in the request it will be there, in the request headers, cookie headers. Sorry, yeah, cookie headers. The CSRF token parameter will be there on the, or in the get request there will be a parameter named CSRF token, or in the body part the CSRF token parameter will be there. So we can easily get to know that, yeah, that this token is verifying the particular request which the user is sending. So the second question was, so in hackathon activity they found new types of vulnerabilities. How they find it? Can you say so? It's like hackathon activity. They found new types of vulnerabilities. How they can find it? Can you say so? It's like Hariharan Mahimala. So it's like the more the experience, the more the stronger you get in web application security. So many people are like they are not working for 1 year. They are working for from 10 years in this cybersecurity domain. So of course, the experience and the knowledge which they have gained through so many years of hard work and the smart work. So of course, that thing would have led them finding the unique vulnerabilities. You can also find unique vulnerabilities, just you need to think out of the box. For my recon process, it will be like it will be, it's not a proper time to discuss about recon process. Recon process will be like, I'll just suggest you some tools like lazy recon by Namasek, or the Yogesh Jha has just created a new tool, not called Reengine. You can use that, or the some other like there is a one more tool named as ReconPy, so which I majorly used. I have made some modifications in that tool, and that is the best tool for me for finding many things at a place or automating the recon work. So any other questions? Any other questions if anybody is having? Moderator, if you can. I guess there are no any other questions. Last 2 minutes are left. So if you want to, if you so there's like last 2 minutes are left. If you have any other queries about the vulnerabilities, about this ATOs or any other vulnerability, you can feel free to reach me at Twitter or at my website ninadmathpati.com, or my blog, or my LinkedIn account. So I would like to say thanks to the RESETHACKER for providing me or for giving me this opportunity to conduct a webinar and help our beginners or intermediate level people to uh, grow in the cybersecurity industry, because there's a need of many cybersecurity experts currently in the current situation. So at last, I would like to end up by saying a thank you, and thank you for coming, for joining this my webinar about account takeovers. And I guess, yeah, we can close the session. Yeah.